This program is part of the Cosmic Potato Podcast Network. For more shows like this, visit our website at cosmicpotatonetwork.com.
Watching television, watching television. Watching television, watching television. I need all the image, I need all the sound. I know the info right into my mind.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Trial by Pilot. This is the show where we judge an entire series of television and the work of hundreds on one episode. I'm Bill Lynch.
And I'm Elizabeth Lynch.
We're doing a reboot.
What would you do if I sang out of tune?
Good question, because I'm often faced with that dilemma.
Would you stand up and walk out on me?
I was a little disappointed not to hear that song
Yeah.
during the Wonder Years reboot.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm partially kidding, because obviously they don't want to just remake the other one.
Right, because it's not what it is. It's not like the same story.
Right. But that
it's
song is so iconic and so
know.
fantastic. Although the soundtrack to this was really good.
The soundtrack to this was amazing.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things that I loved about, at least I think I can remember about the first Wonder Years. Mm-hmm. Aside from that song, I'm pretty sure they had good music throughout the rest of the show. But to be honest, I don't know if I'm just projecting that. I cannot remember. But it definitely, the music in this, at least, really helped with the whole, set the whole tone that feel of what I remember, what it was like to watch the Wonder Years when I watched it back in the 80s and early 90s.
So yeah, the original run of the show was from 88 to 93. Mm-hmm. So it ran for 5 or 6 years.
Which, do you know, at the time, I was so young, I didn't know that. I thought I was watching an old show.
I think that maybe I thought the same thing.
Because I just felt like it was done so well. It felt so different from everything else I was watching.
And, I can't remember now if I watched it while it was on or if I had seen repeats. Maybe I watched it when it was on.
I think I watched it when it was on.
I probably remember stuff from the early 90s. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, other than the main characters and I could still hear the voices, especially of the dad.
Yeah.
And the opening theme song. I don't remember anything about the show. I don't remember any topics that they covered. It was this coming of age show. I don't remember any specific episodes. Do you?
No, not really. Maybe just scenes and a couple of lines. It's just flashes.
Right. Yeah.
I remember the sister. Do you remember his older sister?
Oh, barely.
She was she had long blonde hair. She was a hippie. And, the father was such a straight-laced, military guy. The mom was so, sweet. I just remember those things. Honestly, the dad in that was, I think, so iconic.
Oh, yeah.
That's why one of the reasons I was so excited about this reboot, because Dule Hill is playing the father figure in this one, and I love him.
Yeah.
And he's iconic in other ways, just for Gus, and this is a completely different character.
Yeah.
Are we did we let everyone know what we're watching, right?
We're watching
we're not
the
just
reboot of
talking.
The,
okay.
Well, yeah, I said Wonder Years.
Okay.
We're watching the reboot of the Wonder Years 2001. Obviously, now we're talking a little bit about the 88 version.
Yeah.
So I don't know where I saw this or why I was under this impression. I thought this Wonder Years was going to be set in the 80s.
Oh, really?
Film today's set in the 80s. I don't know why I thought that.
Oh, okay.
Maybe because the other one was in the 80s, set in the 60s. I thought this one was going to be, set a couple decades back from now.
Oh.
But it's not.
Yeah.
It's set during the exact same years as the original Wonder Years.
Yeah.
It starts in 1968. The original run went to 93. And so, every year it was taking place 20 years earlier than the year it aired. And so Kevin was, 12 to 17 during the run of the show. And I just read that part of the reason, possibly a huge part of the reason it was canceled, is because the creators and the network couldn't agree on like where to take the show.
Oh, really?
Because once he started to hit like 16, 17, they wanted to tackle like more mature issues, you know, sexual awakening, whatever you want to call it. And the studio was like, you can do this with any show, but you can't do it with the Wonder Years. It was a massive hit with families.
Yeah.
It was on at 8:00, which was still considered like early. You know, it wasn't on at like 9:30. And so they're like, you can't do it. And so eventually, like, they just kind of went their separate ways.
See, I feel like I would actually, this is one that we've never really talked about doing a rewatch of, and I kind of think I would really love to do that because I remember being young, and to be honest, like, I watched it, but I don't know if I watched it like definitely every week. Like, I
don't
was
remember.
still pretty young, I think.
Yeah.
So I do remember it getting to a point like where I was like, it was like a little more mature. Like maybe it could have just been like heavier. There was like obviously the war was a factor, and like maybe it was like when like later on. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But I felt like there was something like that I wasn't supposed to watch about it. You know what I mean?
When
I
you're
don't
like
know.
10 years old.
Yeah. But I guess we should talk about this
The new
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we just watched this earlier today. I didn't take copious notes. So let's just like talk generally about it and then we'll hit on like some of the key plot points. So now that you said that about like the sister being a hippie in the first one, like it's kind of a similar setup in this one. So
Right.
Dean is the 12-year-old boy. However, they're focusing on a black family in Alabama in this series.
Right.
Which will obviously be very different than Kevin and his white suburban family from the original series.
Right.
Where they never said actually where they were.
Oh, they didn't?
Yeah, apparently like people would like look at the license plates of cars and there was like New York, California, like they never actually settled on a place.
Oh.
This is very definitively in
Kind of like Springfield, like the Simpsons in
Yeah,
Springfield.
this is in Alabama. And so Dean is a 12-year-old black boy. His sister is like wearing like Black Panther patches and is clearly like involved in that movement. While her parents want her to go to college, she wants to
Right.
do other things. His eldest brother was not in the pilot, but is in Vietnam. I don't know, maybe he won't be in any of the show if he's
Yeah.
overseas. The main plot of the pilot was Dean trying to get his baseball team, all black baseball team, to play his white friends' all white baseball team. And most people don't want that to happen. Like, you know, his baseball coach doesn't want it to happen. His dad is very against it. Even after it's like going to happen, his dad's like, you're not going to play.
Right.
But he convinces his mom to like convince the coach, who like they work together, I think.
Yeah.
They said, to have this game.
And this is like right after desegregation,
Yes.
basically. So like that, like their old school is just kind of like sitting there empty, but it's like right after. So you know there's like feelings about that. Like no one's quite past.
Right.
You know.
Right. Yeah, there's a scene in the classroom, you know, with the white and black students, but it's obviously a white teacher, and she makes comments about the black students, like during class.
Yeah, so this is actually a really interesting thing that I had not ever considered learning about. Like, I feel like in school, learning about like schools being desegregated, I'm like, that's a good thing. That's a great thing, right? But a lot, I have recently like been listening to some things and reading some things where it's like, it wasn't necessarily a great thing for these black students because then you're putting them in classrooms with racist white teachers,
Right.
Which is like kind of like kind of what happened here.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I never thought about that. Like that you're not necessarily putting them in like a safer space. You're just like
Right.
desegregating. Like, you know, it was
Yeah.
just that's just like, you know, one of the many things you don't think about when you know you're like taught like through this like very like narrow lens.
Right. Yeah, and we
So
even
that was
hear
kind of illustrated in this scene.
Yeah, we hear Don Cheadle, who does the voiceover narration
Yeah.
for Dean, you know, as an adult, saying like, you know, this teacher even I don't know if she was racist or not. Sometimes she would give special attention to the black students that like showed promise and like were doing well on tests. But he's like, but I don't know if that was a problem or not. Like,
Yeah.
that she wasn't giving that to the other black students.
And his white friend would like, anytime like something happened where like, he would be like, oh, she's not prejudiced.
Yeah.
She's not, like, he would like speak for like the white people to be like, oh, don't worry about them. Like, they didn't mean that because they're not racist.
Right.
Like,
And, Dean is, like kind of a dorky kid. He's got like big glasses on. He's
Yeah.
like embarrassed to wear it unless he like absolutely has to. So he doesn't like quite fit in with like either group. Like obviously he's not white, but the black kids who aren't as well off as he is, his dad's a professor somewhere, a music professor, make fun of him for that.
Right.
Like, oh, you act white, you talk white, you have a lunchbox that you bring to school. And Don Cheadle's like, I'm not even really sure what that meant. So they have this baseball game, and the first pitch goes like right at Dean's head, and his white friend is the catcher. He's like, he's not prejudiced.
Right.
And so his dad and the coach start like yelling alternating advice to him, like opposing advice.
Right.
Which was kind of funny. And, he like strikes out twice because they're like yelling at him. And then they get into a fight. The coach is friends and works with his mom. And so the dad like makes jokes throughout the show about it.
Right. That like, he's got a thing for her.
Right. So they get into it, and then the mom comes over and like, stop showing your asses when the white people are around, which is like a thing that was like known, they said, across socioeconomic status. Like if you were black, you didn't argue or like do anything like that when white people were watching.
Right.
And so as they're arguing, this white couple comes over and they're like, oh shit. And I don't know. I was going to say they have a phone in their hand, but it must have not been a phone, right?
No, definitely not. Maybe a radio?
Maybe it was a radio. I was like, yeah, they were looking on their cell phone, but that wasn't it.
Yeah, it must have been a radio.
But they tell them that they just heard that Martin Luther King was shot.
Right.
And so we go to that night, and they're all sitting on the couch watching the news, and Walter Cronkite comes on and says, Dr. Martin Luther King has been shot and killed. And so Dean goes in to like tell his mom the news, and like she already kind of knows, and she's folding laundry like with her back turned to him, crying. It's like so he can't see it, and we just hear like wails from the neighbor's house.
Yeah.
And so they go over to like talk to the neighbor that's upset, which like there have been like other things like big things that have happened like in our lives, like I don't know, 9/11, of course we remember that shit, but like culturally there's like nothing that I could relate to this, you know, like such an important figure to so many people.
Yeah.
It was just crazy to see it like in that context, like in this suburban home with just these people, and seeing how upset and how affected everyone was.
Yeah, like especially them coming up, they're in the middle of a fight, and then they hear like Dr. King's been shot, and it's like, oh right, what the hell are we fighting about?
Oh yeah,
Because,
everyone just forgets everything else.
Yeah, like this is like such an important figure, to the country, but like especially to them. And yeah, I can't think of like something like, there obviously been like deaths of other political figures and leaders, that it's upsetting.
Yeah.
But like that impactful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, Dean's 12, he doesn't like fully grasp what's going on.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't like hit him the same way. So he goes out to like find his friends to hang out with. And he rides his bike down to their hangout spot, I guess. And his best friend, Chad, is there with the girl he likes. And he sees them kissing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure that'll be the episode 2 drama.
It's like a bummer because she's so nice to him throughout this whole thing. Like he thinks like maybe he has a chance with her. He's just too shy.
Right.
She's like a good friend. But he also mentions like this is his friend who like, shot up like 6 inches in the last year. And it's like definitely going to be like a little bit I like think they're shaping it to be like he's just like probably gonna be a little bit cooler than him,
Right.
you know, and
Totally.
he got the girl, you know, and it's like I think that's him starting to realize like, oh, like again, and like noticing those differences that he'll probably like go. My prediction is like, you know, be friends with a cooler crowd and like, you know, all
Right.
those like coming of age
Classic.
things, classics.
Stuff.
Which is very different from the original Wonder Years because Kevin's friend, what was his? Was it Neil? He was so doofy.
Oh, with
like
the big glasses?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name.
Did he look a little bit like Squeaks?
A little,
For me?
but like taller and gawkier. Like,
Yeah. Speaking of the Sandlot, they played Green Onions during this.
Yeah.
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 What a great song.
I know. It's so good.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm guessing this was mostly like 60s, 70s, like R&B, jazz, funk kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, great soundtrack. So Dean gets home and, you know, he convinced his father to let him play in the baseball game by like really opening up and saying, this is the place where I feel like I could be myself. Like
Yeah.
my two best friends are there. One's black, one's white. I feel like we can just hang out and be ourselves. And I, you know, feel okay about it. And so the dad like let up, but was not happy about it. But then when he gets home at the end of the episode, his dad has taken the baseball from the game that that Dean helped to kind of organize
Yeah.
in some small way and wrote like Dean's game ball. And he put it in like the chest or the big glass cabinet with the rest of the family's like awards and pictures and whatever else.
Yeah, because that was one of the things in the beginning of the episode where it's like his sister's really smart and his brother's like, you know, really like, I think they said he was athletic.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's, you know, in the army. So like, that's obviously, you know, he's brave. His mom is this, his dad is that. And he's like, I'm just like sheep number 3 or whatever in the school play, you know?
That's right. Sheep number 3.
So like that's basically what he has in the case, and then he puts his game ball there. It's kind of sweet.
Yeah. So that was more or less the pilot. What did you think overall?
Overall, I really liked it. It really like gave me the feel that I was hoping for. Like that's what I wanted. I thought they did a really good job. Everything about the set dressing, the costumes, the lighting, you know, it was just perfect. It felt like the Wonder Years. It was just a different town, different family. You know, like I really liked it.
And obviously they'll be tackling much different issues.
Yeah.
I mean, like the coming of age stuff, I'm sure we'll have some similarities, but you know,
Yeah.
we're talking about like the late 60s in Alabama, a
Right.
black family in the suburbs. So I'm sure they're going to tackle some other stuff. Yeah, I mostly enjoyed it. I'm just wondering, I'm almost glad it wasn't set in the 80s just because like there's so much 80s nostalgia everywhere, like ad nauseum over the last
Yeah.
couple of years. So I don't think we needed another show like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I don't know. I don't really like relate to people that grew up in the 60s, obviously, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm worried. I thought this was a good episode. I'm worried about it. Like what groups are going to like gravitate towards this show? You know, like I don't think this is going to draw in like Gen Z viewers.
You don't think so?
I don't think they care about 60s nostalgia or I mean maybe obviously these racial elements are still a thing today that need to be addressed. So maybe that will like bring people in as like a look back, like
Yeah.
this shit was going on then, it's going on now. Here's how it was handled then. Here's all the issues. I don't know. But like there were some of the dialogue and the jokes felt like if I grew up in the 60s and I like got it, you know,
Yeah.
maybe it would have like connected more or been funnier. But there was funny stuff. Like they talk about how the parents would say, stay out of grown folks' business.
Yeah.
Like, and anytime there was like an implication of like sex or money, they would just be like, no, kid, stay out of grown folks' business. Like,
Yeah.
don't ask about that.
Yeah.
And there were like other funny things too.
Well, that's what I liked about it. It was like, I felt like it was like, you know, across the board, like, you know, family is family. There's something very relatable about those things, even if it's not your family, right? You like
Yeah.
insert like this saying here in my family. Like, so I think they did a good job of showing that.
Yeah.
I'm surprised to hear you say that because like I know how much we liked Mad Men, and this isn't Mad Men, but it was a period piece, like same time period or around
Yeah, close.
close-ish. So I'm surprised to hear you say like you don't relate with that. It's like I think that there's a lot of romanticizing of this time period.
Sure.
Or has been in the past, right? Especially for white people, because
Especially
it's like,
since Mad Men.
right, and especially like what we would know about it, right? Like the way we have learned about it or have heard about it from our parents, right? Like,
Right.
oh, like, so I think like this is really interesting because I think this is a time period that people are interested in. Everybody decorates their house this way. I mean, there was a chair in there that I had just been looking at on eBay to buy for our house. So I think that there is like this. There's an interest there.
Yeah, I think you're right. To me, I noticed not stuff like that, but like specific jokes and things. Like there was something about Billy D. Williams. I'm like, I don't
know who that is.
You don't know who Billy D. Williams is?
No, who's that?
He played Lando Calrissian, and I mean, during this time period, he was like the good-looking black actor. Everybody knew who Billy D. Williams was.
Oh, I don't.
Oh yeah. So I mean,
So I guess I missed that joke.
so you missed that joke.
But it didn't make me not like the show.
Sure.
You know.
But there were like a couple things like that where I was like, I don't even think like anyone under the age of like 25 or 30 probably knows who Billy D. Williams is. Like, what a weird reference to put in there. And there were like just a couple little things like that where I was like, I think that might be a turnoff to like younger viewers.
Yeah, I don't know, because I think it's okay if we like miss a thing here or there. It doesn't mean that they don't have to say what was like historically accurate at the time just because people aren't going to get it.
Sure. I'm just thinking like we're, older than 25. So I'm just thinking like younger than us, there's like a big group of people younger than us that they probably weren't watching the show. And the more jokes like that there are, like we probably got stuff that I'm not even picking up on that other people probably wouldn't have gotten, And I'm sure we also, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, that is certainly a point to make. I just don't know if it's like that. It's going to be that much of a deterrent for people,
Yeah. So I think
the whole show was not over anybody's head.
No.
A couple things here and there that you don't understand. Like, fine, that happens all the time.
This podcast isn't that interesting when we just praise a show. Okay, so I'm trying to like
find something.
I'm trying to find something.
But this show should be praised. I really liked it.
My other, not concern, but like thing that I noticed was I thought both parents were really good.
Yeah.
I thought the mom was great. I don't know who she
I
is or
did
what
not
she's been in.
recognize her.
And Dean was fine, but he's like a young kid actor.
Yeah.
And just looking back, the success from the original Wonder Years is because the kid actors were so good.
Yeah.
Fred Savage was nominated for an Emmy the first year. He's the youngest, or at least at that time, he was the youngest ever to be nominated for a Best Actor Emmy.
Yeah.
Like they were phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the kid actors in this are at that level.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean it's not going to be a good show or a funny show. Mm-hmm. I'm just pointing it out. Like, that might keep it from becoming like a great show because the focus is going to be on the kids. It's a coming of age story. And so if you have a bunch of kid actors who aren't really good, I think it might be a hurdle for them to get over.
Yeah.
There was nothing offensive about their acting.
No, but I think it's like they need to like mesh a little bit more together. Like the chemistry probably wasn't there.
Hey, we're looking at the pilot.
We're looking at the pilot, right? But yeah, like from what I remember of that is like the chemistry with those kids, not just their acting, but their chemistry between all of them.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Is notable. So,
Yeah. Just another thing I noticed.
Yeah.
And, reading back through the Wonder Years stuff, I was like, oh, wow, these kids were like praised like very early on for being really, really talented.
Right. Who did the voiceover in the original Wonder Years?
I don't know.
I feel like I knew it, but like I don't now. And also, I really like this way of storytelling. When there's like the story is being told in the background in this thoughtful way, and like this looking back kind of way, it gives like this opportunity to just see the feelings. There's still dialogue, of course, but to see those things happen, like to see them react as you are getting this like hindsight description of what's going on from like an older person.
Yeah.
Like the thoughts and feelings are like articulated in a more mature way than this kid is feeling them or like knowing them at the time.
Yeah.
And I like that. There's just something like weighty about it.
Yeah.
Me, you know?
Yeah, it's cool. It hasn't been done a ton. The original voice was Daniel Stern, who has been in many things. You may know him as one of the wet bandits from Home Alone. Not Joe Pesci.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, who was I just talking? I was literally just talking about him last night. That is very weird.
Daniel Stern?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because I was talking about, someone was saying something about like Rob Schneider. And I was like, oh, do you know Elle King? She was like, oh yeah, like so-and-so's daughter. And I was like, no, Elle King is Rob Schneider's daughter. And she's like, no, it's this person's daughter. And like pulls up a picture. And I was like, yeah, no, Elle King is Rob Schneider's daughter, not that person. And she looked it up and she was like, damn. I think he might have like this Daniel Stern guy must have a daughter who's also a musician.
Oh, okay.
But I'm just like, she's like, you know, the Wet Bandit. And so it's just funny that like, cause that's how I know him is as the Wet Bandit.
That's how I think most of our generation knows him. But he was working before Home Alone. All right. Any other thoughts on the Wonder Years reboot? Do you think it'll get a second season?
Yes, I do.
Okay. It's on ABC, which we should mention.
Yeah.
We haven't watched a network show in quite some time.
Yeah, I think this is the right place for it.
Yeah.
This is perfect. It's probably what it originally aired on, is my guess. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's like always been a very romanticized era. And I like this opportunity to show like the stories from a Black family's perspective.
Yeah.
Where it's like, that's not, you know, like that's like when people are like talking about like making America great again or whatever, like that's what they want.
Right.
But like look at it from like this other lens. Like, so I'm interested to see that. And so I like that it's on a primetime slot at like on a network that like,
yeah,
everyone's going to have an opportunity to see this. So
I did want to mention, I think Fred Savage directed this first episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I read that somewhere.
Cool.
So a little interesting nugget for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
I think that's mostly what he does now. I think he just directs a lot.
Yeah.
Behind the camera, as it were.
He was in some like sitcom
Austin Powers.
not long ago.
Remember he had that big mole in Austin Powers?
He was in Austin Powers?
He was in one of them, and he had a gigantic mole, and Austin Powers couldn't stop saying mole by accident.
I didn't see that one. That's really weird. Yeah, no, he was in a show recently, like I say recently, probably within the last like 8 years. So. Maybe it's not that recent.
I thought you were going to say maybe 2 years.
No.
Recently? 8 years?
Now I want to look up what it is. Oh.
Yes.
Okay, well, so he was in Friends from College, which I didn't see, but that was pretty recent, 2017 to 2019. He was in Goldmember.
There you go.
Where the heck was that other show? It was like a family.
Oh.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Only vaguely.
Well, I don't see it on here.
Most things I remember these days are vaguely.
Vaguely.
All right. Any other thoughts on Wonder Years reboot?
Go check it out. I recommend it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I recommend it.
Yes.
All right, everybody. If you have suggestions on shows for us to watch, you can email us at trialbypilot@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Trial by Pilot. And please go on to Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify. Subscribe to the show, leave a review, and tell a friend.
And thank you to the Beats for providing our theme music.
Thank you, Beats.
Bye.
Bye.
Watching